Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, the Python Gurukul. Today we'll be talking about Pytest Fixtures. We'll be starting with the fixture definition, then we'll be talking about how we can create our own fixtures, and then we'll see how the fixture could be used for setup a teardown. And then we have the scope, which is going to let us know how frequently the fixture will be called, that is defined as per scope. We'll see how we can use the Conftest and how it can be used as a plugin. Also, we'll see the Autouse, which is going to help us for lots of recording or logging. Also, at the end, we'll be looking into some handy command line flags. So let's start with the fixture definition. So remember, fixture is the helper function, test helper function. Fixture can set up the test cases, the precondition of the test cases, and then it can do the tear down. It can bring the database, initialize the database. So any logic which we want to run before our test case execution is start, those things can be done by the fixture. Few things to remember about the fixture. This is one of the core feature which developer likes very much and they stand out with the any other framework. Once you will start using it, you will continue to use it. Another very important thing to note about the fixture is we never call the fixture. Fixture's call will happen by itself, by the Pytest itself. So just define it and mention inside the test function, and then the remaining things will be taken care. So let's take a look at one of the very basic example of the fixture. Here we are importing Pytest, then we are using @decorator, and we are calling Pytest dot fixture decorator. By just writing this particular line, we are converting one of the function as a fixture. So this is one of the very simple fixture which is returning 7. In this particular test case, we are doing some calculation, doing some verification. We want the reset days compared with the number 7. So remember, we are not calling reset days and the parenthesis. We are not calling reset days function. We are just mentioning the reset days inside our test case parenthesis. As soon as Pytest see this particular name, it starts looking in the list of the fixtures and it does the execution what it's supposed to do. In this particular test case, it was only meant to return the number 7. It will be returned here and the test case will pass. We saw that we have used the decorator, but I want to mention here one thing that we don't have for the fixture, we don't have the good understanding of the decorator, how it works. Only by just learning this one particular line should be good enough. But if you are curious, want to learn more about the decorator, then please watch my recorded video, Decorators in Python, and you'll get the really good understanding of the decorators. If we are having any test framework, setup and tear down play the real important role. In this particular test case, if you'll see lots of things is happening, but what we want to do, we just want to verify the count equal to 0. But for that, we are looking for one database, created one path variable. We are calling one of the books class. From the books class, we are calling the method booksdb, providing the path. We got the database object. Then we are doing the count operation and we got the count. And we are closing the database. So just for one line, we did lots of things did here. And this is kind of tricky. Maybe some developer will be not able to understand what's going on here. So we want to keep our test case as much as clean can. So now look at some better structured test cases. So this test empty is converted to one of the fixture. In this fixture, we are doing creating the path, setting the path, initializing the database, and yielding. Once we are done with the test case execution, we are closing. That's how simple it is. Now look at our test case. So this was the test case, test empty. What we wanted to do? We just wanted to do one line execution. Assert count should be 0 because we have just initialized the database. Another test case, we are adding books 1, books 2, and then we want to count how many books we have. But now we can see that how clean our test cases looks like because all the logic of setup, tear down, making sure it has been closed is have been kept inside the fixture. Another thing to note, all the execution will happen in the fixture till the eld. As soon as it see the eld, it will wait for test cases to be completed. So before whatever we have in the eld will be executed before this particular test case. Once the test case execution done, then the eld part will be happening and will close the db.close. So do everything what we want to do before the test case. Once we are done with the test case, close the database. That's what we are doing. So setup and tear down part have been taken care without mentioning even a single decorator setup or tear down. It is just a simple plain fixture. So as we say that scope is going to help us to drive our fixture. How many times the fixture should be called, how frequently it should be called, when it should be called. So it is defined in this particular scope. By default, if we are not mentioning the scope, it is default is the function. But we can mention function, module, class, package, session. So if it is session, then this particular fixture is going to get executed only one time entire test execution. If we have at the function, so it will be executed as many time as test function we have. And same goes for module, class, and package. Conftest.py. So we have been talking about the fixture all the time. Means it is going to have a number of fixtures we'll be having. So how to organize them? Where to keep them? So conftest.py is a kind of plugin. We can just use this particular name and keep our all fixture inside the context.py module. By doing that, we don't have to worry about importing, looking for them, or calling. Pytest does that for us behind the scene, and it works as a plugin. So that's the beauty of it. So let's take an example how we can have one of the context.py. And remember, it could be part of the same package, it could be the part of the parent package. It is up to us where we want to keep. So we have one fixture here, and so on. So the context.py could have as many fixtures we want. Now talk about auto use. So many times while running the test cases, we want to have lots of things behind the scene, like how much time this particular test case took, or how much time the entire test module took. So this kind of calculation we want to do. And we don't want to have any of such logic inside our test cases. So create the fixture the way you do. Only we need to mention that auto use equal to true. And as soon as we mention auto use equal to true, now we don't have to even mention this particular fixture while writing our test cases. So we have test one. We are not mentioning this fixture. But this fixture is auto use and it depends on the scope. It is being called as per the scope direction. So that's very handy. Lots of thing about the fixture. So how to find out how the flow is happening. So at any point of time, a developer want to know that which all fixture was called, what was the execution flow by just typing pytest setup show and then just give the name of your test module or package, whatever. This particular flow will showcase that what has happened first. So we are saying setup was called, fixture was used books.tp. Then the test case was called. After the test case, teardown was called. Again, setup was called because we are going to start with another test case. So test count, test empty was run, then setup a teardown was run. Now we are going for test two. Again, setup was run, teardown. So by just looking into the setup show, we can just see whole hierarchy of the execution. Next handy command is fixtures. By just saying the fixtures, we can list all the available fixtures for that particular test module or test package, and it will also list all available built-in fixture as well. And with the name of the fixture, where it is, and what it does. Kind of small definition about it. So it's very handy, and I'll always encourage you guys just go ahead, check in your test cases by typing Pytest Fixtures. The last handy command. So while writing the test case, many times we come across with the printing messages, but we generally don't print those messages. But while doing the triage, while trying to find something, if you want, we can enable the print messages by just saying that hyphen s or hyphen hyphen capture equal to no. Then these are the print messages and these will be printed in the screen. So this was all the theory part. Now let's change our gear and talk about a couple of the live examples. Test count initial.py where we saw that we have very initial test case. We are doing everything here, setting up the temporary directory, we got the path, initialize the database, then we got the count from the DB, and then we are closing and then are running our test case. So let's go to the command line. Already I have enabled my virtual environment. In the virtual environment, I'm calling the test case. We are looking into the test case test count initials, and I'll just take it out. So we'll just trigger PyTest and then test count initials. Test case was executed and passed. But our problem was that everything was done it here. Now let's look at the better example. And this particular one is the enhanced one. Now, instead of just doing everything inside this particular area, setting up, tear down, doing all the logic, we have moved the logic inside this particular books DB. And we have decorated this particular function as the Pytest fixture, so it has become the fixture, and there is no scope mentioned, so it is by default function. Mention books.db. So books.db is a fixture which is defined over here. As soon as our Pytest see that fixture, it will do the particular execution. It will yield here. Once the test case ends, it will go ahead and close the database. The same logic will go. So now we can see that test cases are looking really clean. We have test case 1, we have test case 2. Let's go ahead, call this particular test case. So we are saying, let's count the enhanced one, test case.py. So this time, two test cases were called, executed, and passed. So the next thing we want to talk about is the scope. So in this particular scope, we have defined several fixtures, and few fixtures are scope, function wise, module wise, session wise, and so on. So this is just saying that this particular function will be called with every function. This is saying that the mod scope will be only called one time per module, one time per session, one time per class. And while writing the test case, I pass all the scope. So even all have been mentioned here, the test case execution will happen as scope. So even we have two test cases, but module session is going to execute only one time. So that's the beauty of this particular test case. So what we'll do, We will go ahead to the command prompt. This time we will say test scope and run the test case. So we got the four test cases, but we want to see that how the setup was done here. So we'll say setup and we'll say so, and then see how the things is. So now we can see that first of all, at the session level, uh, at the session level, sys scope was called. Then there was another setup at the module level, mod scope. Then there was another setup at the function level, function scope. And then we had the test case. We did a tear down. Then again, remember, as the session and module have already called, so they will be not called with the second test case. So with the second test case, only the function level scoped fixture is being called, and so on. The same thing goes to class, only class scope fixture was called and tear down, and so on. So that's the beauty of this particular scope. And then we want to bring another one, the auto use. In this auto use, we have defined auto use equal to true. We have another auto is equal to true. One is at the session level, another is at the by default, so it is the function level. And now we have the test cases. So while having the test cases is not doing any logic about the time recording. All the time record will be taken care by our fixture. So fixture is going to get executed even we are not mentioning inside the test. So that's the beauty of auto use. So as soon as we say auto use equal to true, this fixture will be called even without mentioning inside the test function. So let's go ahead and call the auto use. And with auto use, I have enabled -s. So with the -s, we'll be able to see that what all the messages are getting printed. Either we can say -s or we can say capture equal to no. So we saw that test duration 1 second, another test 1.23 seconds, and then at the session level we had that how much time it all when the test case was completed, so finished. Let's go back to our auto use. So this particular function scope was executed 2 times because we had the two test cases. This test case took how much time? The same thing was printed here. But at the session scope was only one, and we wanted to print at the end of the all the test cases. So we are yielding. Once the test cases are done, then we are doing the time and printing the time. So last one more thing I want to highlight with this particular one. So let's say what are the fixture here? So we'll say fixtures. So this is going to list out all the fixtures available for this particular module as well as with the built-in. So let's print this one. It's a long list, and this is the one which we defined, but all the one here, monkey pads, this is very handy. I'll be talking about it later. Cap logs, these all is built-in fixture available in Pytest. Okay, so that's all I had for Pytest fixture. Hope you like my video. If you like, please share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.